Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hey folks, how's it going out there? It's Ukraine Update here with the Shills, and today we encourage you to grab an orc by the throat, drag him up a set of stairs, and huck him out a window. They're used to it. It's how they play. They feel like they're at home. We got Commander McMillan in today. How's it going, Commander?
Pretty good.
Good. We got Johnny in from Young Ukrainians. How you doing, Johnny? Good. And we got Dave Worley back with us. How's it going, Dave?
Hey, how is everyone? Let us know in the chat.
Yeah. So we're going to blast through a bit of news. We've got good room for questions today. We got started a little late, so the show will be about an hour and 20 minutes. And then coming up after on the main channel, we got what's going to be like a preview to a new show coming up. So event will be posted soon. Stay on the channel, and hopefully you'll like that one too. Where do you think, Johnny? You want to give us a rundown on some events there? You've made some notes, and then we'll pick and choose out of that and go from there.
Sure. A lot of cool things are happening and happened. Some with like long-term consequences, and some are kind of just fun in the moment. All of them some are bad, some are good, but all of them have good potential. Let's start with President Portugal called Trump a Russian asset. That never happened because it's a president of a country, and officially calling Trump a Russian asset, something that the fringe people have been saying, maybe the Shills have been saying, because it's kind of undeniable.
That's great.
But it's good to have a voice where it's a leader of a country kind of stating the obvious. It's a small win. Maybe it's like non-consequential. I think it's kind of cool. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great development. It's people are finally, calling the kettle black, so to speak.
Yeah, I would agree there, Commander. I think more and more people are starting to get a bit more comfortable with publicly just saying, I don't have to hold back anymore. There's so many saying it, I might as well drop one too.
Yeah, it's a good trend.
Very much.
Well, we've been saying it before it was trendy, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I think
before it was a hype.
Yeah, I think Commander's been saying it since like 94.
So there's some changes in just because I'm also plugged into Russian just lifestyle. I speak Russian language. I watch Russian programming sometimes. The Russian trends are changing. They used to boast about how they are going to visit like Milan and like Paris and London, how they travel to Miami, New York, all that. It's kind of changing right now. They're like news travel channels are kind of showing like North Korea. By the way, lots of Russians have already visited North Korea on a like a leisurely vacations. Afghanistan, Tehran, Iran, Africa, Burkina Faso. They're heavily advertising how great it is over there. Um, Botswana, of course, all these the usual suspect: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. Nothing wrong with those countries, but they're just in that pocket where they kind of isolated from the rest of the world. Kazakhstan actually has done some good things, supported Ukraine and all that, but they're kind of like in between China and Russia. So where else is a Russian got to go? For a vacation. To me,
Kind of the
yeah,
equivalent of saying, "Oh, let's visit the city dump. It's lovely this time of year."
and believe me, Russians are using that opportunity to call all those countries the dumps. Russian always goes with the attitude like, oh, I'm a superhuman. What do you have to offer for me? They're completely immune to like the Western way of life. When they were visiting like, Rome or they would find like piles of trash in New York. They would find like Miami too hot. They would always come back with the notes like, oh, in Urengoy, it's much better. It's like, oh, they have poor people in they never come with like good notes like, oh, we should like start building like roads or bridges or anything like that. They're completely immune to like the Western way of life. But when they go to these lesser countries right now, like it's a festival for a Russian, because they have complete confidence. Putin is doing the great things. Russia is number one again. For them, it's kind of like even a great development. And for me as well, I want them to be over there isolated, far away from me as possible.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about that, or do you want me to keep going?
No, keep going.
Yeah, I think
I think
that kind of sits there self-evident, like a cake is sweet.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the one that bears some discussion is the Beijing summit.
Oh, Beijing summit. That's a big point.
That is literally like going back to my childhood, and it's the Legion of Doom from the Super Friends, Justice League, right? That's what's building there.
Yeah. You guys want to jump right in that one?
Sure.
Heads first. So yeah, I mean, there was about 20 leaders. Somehow everyone is kind of either a dictator or very friendly with Russia and China. This could easily be called and should be called like a kettle black, anti-American, anti-Western coalition. The main goal of them is probably the destruction of the United States, but not because it's just the United States. It's like, if you want to destroy the West, you have to start with the United States.
Just like Trump is doing.
Exactly. Trump actually reacted to this meeting in a weird way, because it showed that he kind of understands exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is unreal. We cannot expect that from Trump usually. But he, if you guys seen that tweet that he made, he said, "Oh, you guys have gotten together and you're conspiring against United States, and say my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin." Like, which first part, yeah, I mean, they got together, they're conspiring against the United States. That's 100% correct. And then he couldn't help himself. He's like, "Oh, my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin," which is, geez, like, where do you stop?
It's like two different humans wrote the first and second part of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Jekyll and Hyde, right?
A lot of stuff coming out now from the White House is like that. You know, somebody writes a prepared statement and he kind of reads it, goes off script, and then you get his meanderings in the world of Fantasyland.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that they have a message they want him to say. All his handlers are saying, do this.
Yeah.
And his little mind is so rotted out that he can't stick with the message.
Yeah, it's like when he started babbling AI about the garbage bag being thrown out of the White House window. Meanwhile, they had already said it was because of Renos or something. Like, it's just... But yeah.
Lights are on and nobody's home.
So this meeting is kind of historic because it's very anti-American, anti-Western, and it's kind of the biggest meeting of its kind that ever happened. Like when you look at the amount of countries that are present, it's way more than half of the world. Basically, it's the biggest half of the world. It's economically, it's on par with West now, because you have India present there, which is a very big economy. China, very big economy, no surprise there. Russia, maybe not the biggest economy, but you know, it's got its own things going for it in the mix. So just the people wise, the economy wise, and the statements that are basically presented, it's an assurance that if you are in that meeting, it's an assurance that you're friends with China and Russia. You know, you kind of like expressing your loyalties over there, that you're not with those guys. You know, you're not with Trump. Like, we are kind of disorganized as a West, right? We don't have a leader. United States used to be a leader. Right now, United States is attacking our allies,
And
And
Europe, Canada.
itself.
Yeah. I'm sorry, attacking, you said who?
Itself. I mean, like this whole thing with Chicago and whatnot.
Troops into Chicago.
Yeah.
No, he overtly threatened that if there's any resistance, they're going to start shooting people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
can hear something.
What do you hear?
Oh, I started something. Okay, I stopped it. Sorry, it's in my ear.
Oh.
You guys, what if I lose my mind during the stream? What if I'm like, no?
It's happened here before, so, you know.
Yeah, are the voices coming back? Nurse, he's out of bed. Nurse.
I made them stop.
Commander, as it pertains to this meeting here and everything that's going on, you know, with the, BRICS type or, you know, Legion of Doom or whatever you want to say here. It does when you when you start, though, like Johnny was saying there, when you start looking at the economics behind it and who's involved in stuff, how close are they to like the G7 now? You know, now that the 8's out, right? You know, I mean, are they at like 50% of GDP? You know,
if that, a lot of it is that many of these countries, I'll exclude China because they're very much a separate issue.
Yeah.
But most of them are single product nations. They only have one thing that basically props up their economy. In many cases, as I'm sure you realize, it's petroleum.
Very much.
Petroleum byproducts. In China, it's the whole cheap labor and, you know, mass production manufacturing that makes it cheap, and West loves to buy cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of countries are beginning to realize that, yeah, it's cheap, but the quality is for shit. So they're actually actively looking for other places that may cost a little more, but will at least produce goods that can be reliably sent to market and not have customers return it the next day saying, broke, does not work.
Yeah.
The economic power of those nations is quite limited, all things considered.
Yeah, that's I was wondering, right? Because like you say, the one trick ponies, and even when it's petroleum, you're talking about it doing really well for their nation, but that's their populace and stuff. When you compare that to, it's not such a huge chunk even then.
Yeah. And you look at the standard of living of the average citizens in those countries as compared to, the real G7.
Yeah.
And you get a true sense of just how disproportionate the economic wealth and power is.
Oh yeah. I mean, even with Russia, we make jokes about them needing toilets and stuff, right? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah.
But on the Russian point, Russians boast that particular point. They boast as their advantage, because they are going to be fighting us, to the death. Eventually, there might be some nuclear weapons used, and Russians are already living the shitty life. They're kind of prepared for what's going on, and we're not. We might be holding on to our comfort because we are weak and cowardly, according to Russians, and they're strong and seasoned and kind of like, they're Spartan type of people.
Yeah.
Because they
When
have.
was the last time that kind of message was promulgated? The enemies of the West saying, "Oh, they're weak, effete, they won't fight, they're cowardly. Our superior will win."
Yeah.
You go back to World War II, and that's exactly the message that Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan were putting out to their people.
And Soviet Union, because the
Yep.
Soviet Union was with them at the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's not forget.
Once the war started, they suddenly realized we can't survive unless all those countries give us a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the first 2 years of World War II, USSR were the ally of Germany. They were sending them all the things they needed to fight the war. It's only after they attacked each other that USSR said, "Oh, we're good guys."
Yeah.
Which they were not. And there was
that one of the things just prior to the Germans launching the attack, I mean, literally an hour before the attack, there was a shipment of stuff coming from Russia, and they waited until it passed into occupied Poland before they launched the attack because the Germans were so desperately short of the natural resources they need to keep the war machine going. They had to wait for the Russians to deliver that last train before they attacked.
Wow.
In fact, they could not even have the war if it wasn't for assurances from USSR, because one of the things that Germans relied on, they had mechanized, motorized brigades, which were very effective in the war that they were doing, and they needed oil, like petrol, diesel, and all that stuff, and they only had synthetic gasoline. You cannot fight a war like that. So all the gasoline shipments, everything was coming from USSR, among other things as well.
Or Hungary.
Right. Well, I mean, and so they didn't have their own. And also, the first thing Germany did once they attacked USSR, they went for Baku for their oil reserves, because that was their plan. They just needed to secure the gasoline productions, and then they could continue the war. Of course, we know at the end it didn't work out because China won the World War II, and that's what they were celebrating this week in China. See how
China won
circled
World
back?
War II because the Japanese surrendered to the Allies. The Chinese were actually losing ground.
Wow.
I was being facetious, of course.
I know you were.
Yeah.
You have to make sure the audience understands the reality.
Oh, come on. I think very highly of our audience. I think we have very smart people over there.
Yeah, very much so. Let's remind everybody we got our Car for Ukraine campaign going. I'll get the link in the live chat right there. I'll bring you up some stuff here. We're at a couple €100, so a couple of donations would be very welcome indeed. And we'll see if we can't get this on the move and get another rocket truck going. We've partnered up with a couple other channels because it's a bit more money to do the rocket truck. So we're on the hook to raise 3,600 of it. And let's see what we can do. Because I like watching shit explode with our name on the side of the truck. Oh, yeah.
This is amazing.
Yes, I love that Car for Ukraine has those rocket launching trucks. They're awesome.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to read something from Institute for Study of Warfare. They're talking about the summit, and they have this statement. Putin said at the beginning of the meeting in Beijing that Russia will have to solve, quote, all tasks surrounding the war in Ukraine via armed means, because the overwhelming majority of his commanders are, quote, in favor of Russia achieving all their goals as outlined at the beginning of the war, unquote. So basically, that statement shows he has zero intention of coming to any kind of negotiated settlement with Ukraine. He's going to keep fighting until his head's on a spike.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're going to keep this up. There's no sign of it at all. There's no sign of any, real intent to do any sort of negotiation or whatever. And they'll fight until they're throwing sticks and using and, hitting people with like bats and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that whole thing with the Russians. They don't think that Ukraine has the right to exist outside of being Russian.
Yeah. And they made other statements. I'm not going to read excerpts of those, but basically they're blaming the whole war on NATO expansion and the attempt of NATO to move into Ukraine. Notice it's not Ukraine joining NATO, it's NATO moving into Ukraine, as if we're going to stage our own invasion of Ukraine.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think it's really clear that there's no negotiated peace, armistice, ceasefire, whatever that's going to be coming down the road anytime soon.
I agree, 100%.
And also from their point, they do have momentum on their side. If you remember, during USSR times, during Cold War times, USSR could never unite this many countries, this much economic potential under one guys, under one wing like this. This is kind of historic, like with hate towards USA, with loving of strong leaders. They do have something on their side that they kind of shows success from where they're standing. It's kind of clear that. And also, like, I think the reason for that is because USA doesn't have a leader right now, or maybe has a leader that kind of plays for their side a little bit. Because if you go look at the Cold War times, we would have like Ronald Reagan, right?
Yeah.
And Ronald Reagan would not just sit and listen to all this happening. He would go to United Kingdom, he would go to France, he would go to Brazil, he would try to go to India or one of those countries and project a strong leadership and tell them, listen, we are the power to be reckoned with, not they. But right now, if you're a smaller country and you're looking at the world, the West is like a chicken without a head. Like Europeans are scrambling to
not that safe place anymore that makes them feel comfortable.
Exactly. So maybe it's better to join the bad guys, the hooligans on the block. Maybe the mafia will protect me better than the police department that doesn't have a sheriff, that's a little corrupt as well, So that's kind of the thinking.
And in the end, it is the era of global economy and stuff. You've got to have somebody to trade and do things with.
It's that old expression, nature abhors a vacuum. Well, when you got Trump, there's a vacuum for leadership in the Western world. We've got the orange-faced clown trying to pretend that playing golf is somehow demonstrating leadership. It's only leadership if I cheat. Come on.
And to give credit where credit is due, this is exactly what Trump has promised. He said, America number one,
Yep.
we should not get involved into world affairs. You know, he destroyed our soft power, which we, however small it was, USAID around the world, which China and Russia already went
Stepped
in there
into,
and
yeah.
kind of, yes, stuck their noses into. They're just ecstatic. They were applauding Musk Doge team when they were destroying USAID, which is our only kind of soft way of having any kind of voice around the world.
It's an arm of goodwill. It meant a lot, even if
it costs virtually nothing when you look at its actual budget and how much. But excuse me, those small amounts of money that they would distribute to individual villages and such for building a school or for, drilling a well or something. Those kind of little things have a profound effect on people. And it built up enormous goodwill around the world for the US. And then, we're America first. We're going to take all that money and use it at home. In other words, we're going to give it to the billionaires who really need it so their bank accounts get larger.
Yeah. And there's so many people without means in life that got all riled up for the message and voted for this guy. I mean, how much longer until every one of them are like, wow, were we lied to? You eventually got to admit that crap to yourself. Eventually, right?
Yeah. Thank you, prosperity gospel.
Well, that was that leather-bound Bible he sold for $100, right? I saw a thing.
Just wipe my ass on 2 or 3 of the pages. Don't worry about
exactly. I actually just saw a thing today. We won't go on about him for too long here, but I saw a thing today that was pretty interesting. It was a Wall Street Journal video on YouTube, and the guy was figuring out how much money Trump has profited off simply being the president. And the numbers at the end of it look to be a good $3.5 billion.
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yeah.
That's what you get for, he's a billionaire and he's good at making deals. So,
trouble is, a lot of that money these days is going to paying off his loans and legal fees.
Oh, yeah, man. There's a few people that got him dead to rights on big ones, right? All right.
So another thing,
sorry.
No, well, go ahead.
No, mine is not as interesting as yours, Commander McMillan.
Oh, you sound very self-assured.
I'm sure about what I'm saying.
Well, the other thing I found interesting in ISW's weekly update or daily update, one of the things is that they noted the Russian military, the MOD, is announcing that they've occupied all of Kupiansk. And not only are the Ukrainians and the free press saying otherwise, Russian mill bloggers who are usually incredibly pro-Putin are saying, no, not only haven't you, everything you're saying is a complete falsification and lie, because what's going on, according to these folks, is they are infiltrating small groups of 3 to 5 guys in civilian clothes into Kupiansk to stand in front of known buildings in Kupiansk and hold up a Russian flag to say, look, we've conquered the town. And then they try to get back and across the lines, because they really don't hold the place, but it's all a PR stunt. And this is just a specific case, but increasingly the Russian mill bloggers are sounding very, very disillusioned with the military's conduct of the conflict so far.
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to talk about that point as well, because this disillusionment that Russians are feeling is very profound right now. because they've been making advances towards that area, and they kind of stuck into Ukrainian. Jesus, what I'm saying? They stuck into Ukrainian territory, and they proclaimed like this is about to be like the breaking of the whole front. Like this is
Yeah.
where the camel's back is going to be broken. They openly professed like this is probably the end of the war. And what they were doing, they were moving in, they were advancing, they were grabbing land, and at the last minute, when they were already saying this is ours, Ukraine sends in their Azov battalion, Azov brigade, and they just kill. It was like a massacre. I think they killed like 150 people in one day. They completely neutered the whole thing, and they brought everything to the first line. So what Russians could not understand, and it's still unclear to this day, was it a deliberate attempt on Ukraine to let them think that they're winning, to kind of come and cut them off and just massacre everyone, or was it just a coincidence that it happened that way? But
Yeah.
even though we don't know exactly what happened, this is going to have a profound effect on Russians' confidence from now on, because when they think, oh my God, we're winning, we're about to break through, Ukraine is about to fall, next day all of them were dead. All those people who were thinking that we're making through, we're breaking through, and like Commander Macmillan saying, like the Russian mill bloggers that are very optimistic, like they see a little bit of an inch, they're like, we're done. They are very, very depressed right now, those people.
Yeah. And as you said, we don't know if it's the Ukrainian military leading them into a trap or just conducting brilliant tactical counterattacks, but they are chopping up huge numbers. I mean, we're back to the Bakhmut levels of losses, and actually in some cases higher. They're really taking a beating, and all indicators are that in some sectors the Russian army is actually on verge of collapse simply from a morale perspective. Troops are refusing to follow orders. They're deserting in droves or surrendering in droves. It's pretty bad for them.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, that this thing had a profound mental effect. And it's kind of like in the vein of what Ukraine has been doing like since the start of war, because you're having a small country with a much smaller military, less people, less everything, fighting a much larger force. Commander Macmillan, you know this for sure. At the beginning of war, Russia had like 3 or 5 times advantage in artillery. So Ukraine could not match that. So they would make the things that looked like artillery. Russia would spot them from the drones, and Ukraine would make it look so lifelike that it was unmistakable artillery. So Russians would strike that, Ukrainians would put themselves in a position and strike back and destroy the artillery that struck the fake artillery. So at that point, when Ukraine was kind of struggling to survive, it had a profound effect, because Russian artillerists, they stopped being so confident when they were shooting at something. They didn't know if a minute later, where they're trying to do an evasive maneuver, they're going to be killed by coming in artillery strike. So that had also a profound effect, where Russian artillery units, they lost all kinds of confidence, and they couldn't perform so well on the battlefield, and Ukraine was like taking advantage and reversing the position on the battlefield just because of that one mental trick. So now this thing with Kupiansk has like a larger effect, but of the same sort, where like all of those Russians, they have zero confidence of maybe their leaders are kind of throwing them to another slaughter by a pretense, oh, you guys are winning.
And it's tragic the number of telephone poles that were sacrificed for this during the early part of the war with these deception artillery pieces.
Oh yeah. Well,
Standard NATO practice is an artillery piece never fires more than 3 rounds before it displaces and relocates. If you stay in place any longer than that, you're going to get hit with counter battery fire. And it took the Russians about a year to a year and a half to pick up on that reality, because they deploy artillery batteries and just sit there all day in the same location.
Just waiting to die.
and luckily, a lot of them died. It's not, forgive me, but I'll correct Commander Macmillan. It's not that they learned their mistake. It's the ones who were taught differently died, and the new ones taught themselves differently.
Yeah, they said,
that's how Russians learn.
Working.
Yeah. How many times do you have to be the third light of the cigarette at war at night before you realize that was the wrong mistake?
It's like survival of the fittest. It's evolution in progress,
Yeah, exactly.
The third one survives, and they're the ones who are like, oh, now we don't smoke.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's just amazing kind of development. These tricks, and they're real. Like it's something that, like Commander Macmillan said, it destroys the confidence. If you don't have the confidence in a war, then you don't have much to go on. And Ukrainians, they're kind of doing their thing. They're performing. By the way, the same thing, throughout the war, like not just destroying artillery, but how they. This is actually going to take me to my favorite topic of the last week, or whatever, the favorite development, the Flamingo missile. But how Ukrainians did with those little drones, that they're carrying, the payload of a drone is like 1 to 2 kilograms, and they destroyed third of Ukrainian strategic aviation. If you don't mind, I would love to talk about Flamingo missile, because in my mind, I can see the end of the war on Ukrainians' terms. I can see how this can be everything. Like, this can change everything. By the way, Russians are losing it over it. I don't know if you guys are hearing what they're saying, but basically, it could not be a worse time for Flamingo missile to arrive. It's carrying 1,000 kilograms of explosives. Its range is 3,000 kilometers, which is huge. Russia already started doing their false campaigns showing like where 3,000 kilometers would engulf London and Paris and Berlin. So maybe Ukraine is trying to attack Europe for some reason. This just ridiculous propaganda campaigns that Russia is doing. And basically, Russia has always won any kind of war that they won, like against Napoleon, against Hitler, by being a vast territory, by using general frost. When winter comes, Napoleon troops would freeze, German troops would freeze. But this is what's happening right now. Is the roles are completely reversed. Right now, instead of Russia using that to their advantage, it actually becomes the advantage of Ukraine, because the winter is coming, as we know, and Russia, because they're so afraid of Ukrainian drones and now a Flamingo missile, they're forced to move all their supply lines way far away. So now with the winter coming, they have to move everything through a very vast Russian territory to make sure that their troops are nice and supplied for the coming winter. And Ukraine has already started like demolishing all those supply lines with little drones, right? Now you throw a Flamingo missile in the mix, where instead of a drone that's carrying 2 to 3 kilograms, which Ukraine already used to devastating effects, they would take out a railroad for a couple of days. So a couple of days, Russians are not getting supplies that they need. Imagine what you can do with a missile right now. I think that's gonna have like detrimental like effect on the battlefield, and Russians are kind of already feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I think the Flamingo missile, in addition to other stuff, is having a profound effect is on the Russian economy, because they're able to hit oil production facilities way inland. And the last estimate I saw, which is a couple of weeks ago, was that roughly 20% of Russia's oil production infrastructure had been destroyed to that point in the war.
Mm.
And
With
it's
little
only going
drones.
to be, yeah, it is only going to be getting worse.
Oh, yeah.
So we can see that Ukraine already started destroying this oil production and oil refinery facilities with little drones, like with 1 to 2 kilograms payload. So Ukraine already knows how to do this. They maybe lacked capabilities. They've been asking for something like a Tomahawk missile, and which even if they would get, United States would never allow them to hit Russia with it. And now Ukraine developed its own missile, and
Yeah.
they don't need any permission. Everybody understands
Tell me
that.
what to do with my own toys.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
So, according to my data, 70 out of 90 Russian air bases are within the reach of Flamingo missiles. So, almost all of their air bases. And about 120 oil and gas facilities in Russia are within the reach of Flamingo missile. So that just, Russia economy is
V1.
heavily, yeah. If they destroy 21% with nothing, basically, like this, you throw Flamingo missile in the mix, we're gonna see many differences in what's gonna happen. And also, by the way, they already did a successful strike with the Flamingo. Did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
I think it was airfield in Crimea.
Yep.
And that's awesome, because of course Russia, as soon as they annexed Crimea, they started bringing Russian families to Crimea to create a humanitarian crisis in case Ukraine wants to bring Crimea back into the fold. So they would say, "Oh, look at all these Russians. What are you going to do with them? We have to like keep Crimea because there are so many Russians now." But because Ukraine has not hit the bridge right now, even though technically Flamingo, why not?
Yeah.
So, and they're hitting, like they hit airfield in Crimea. That has the psychological effect where, all the Russians that are inside Crimea, they cannot feel safe right now. They understand that they're not under protection of this great Russia military anymore.
Right.
And hopefully, like, I'm kind of hopeful. I don't think that's going to happen, actually. Maybe you guys feel different. But hopefully Russians get scared enough that at least some of them will freaking, cut their vacation short and go back to Russia through that bridge, which they still have.
Even somebody with that weird mentality that most Russians have still has an inner sense of self-preservation for the most part, right?
Yeah. If they truly feel like Russia is losing, which right now they don't feel it, I don't think they feel it. But if they do, if we can break that assurance and that sensation that Russian propaganda is instilling every day, they will start understanding very quickly, because they do have self-preservation. They're not dumb. They do have self-preservation, like Mr. D is saying.
Right? Exactly. You would, so I would put it into the mix because humanity has it, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, Russia is not prepared. Oh, fortunately, Russia is not prepared for Ukraine fighting back. Russia is very vast. Russia is all the supply lines are very stretched. They don't have the air defense capabilities to protect everything, where this Flamingo missile just changes everything. Russia has to go to the board. They have to rewrite. And this board is so scribbled because they've been rewriting and reorganizing. And they thought, by the way, Russians thought they already figured Ukraine out with this latest like Kupiansk thing, that they're sending like 5 people at the time to kind of hold positions and go further and further and further, which right now they're not even sure that that's working, because Ukraine so beautifully ended all that operation in one day and destroyed Russian confidence and everything. And right now this Flamingo missile is just throwing all kinds of chaos. Russia has to pick and choose which sites they're going to be protecting with air defense and which sites they absolutely cannot, because they don't have enough.
Yeah.
It's just too big of a country, too vast of a space. The lines are too long, too stretched. And Ukraine knows it. I think they start to know it as well.
Well, Ukraine's got some clever stuff going. So yeah, hey, Commander.
Yeah, I was going to say even prior to the war, the best air defenses the Russians have, which were the S-500 and 400 series missiles, there were so few of those that they were effectively national level assets. You know, an army group might get one such system to protect its headquarters and main supply dump or something. So, and we know that the Ukrainians have knocked out numerous such systems. So it's making it a much more complicated and harder to work plan of how to put up air defenses to cover all those critical sites.
Yeah.
So, you know, if today you're going to protect your airfields so that your, you know, strategic bomber force is okay, the Ukrainians are bright enough to know that, okay, so we don't hit those. We hit the oil infrastructure. And then when they shift the stuff to protect the oil infrastructure,
Go to the other.
You know, you hit the rail switching yard or whatever. You find new targets when something's protected.
Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
there's always another worthy target, right?
Oh, yeah. Right now, Russia's what you would call a target-rich environment.
That's a good way of putting it. Why don't we flip the script here for a few? I'm going to do a couple of shout outs, and we're going to get some viewer questions in as well. So 1 second here. We've got some forest fire smoke in the area. I know, like I'd noticed, but it is actually bugging me.
Oh,
I notice, and
hope
I'm
you stay safe.
probably 100 miles away from you. So.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It was
But,
you.
Yeah. So here we got Papa Dutch came in with a $10 super chat before we were even live, and it was Hell Fukino, which is a good one. I like that very much. And then Heidi High came in with a message here as well. We need to retire some of these old men leaders. They're dangerous to everyone now. It's too much senile testosterone in the world today. Oh, yeah. Clearinghouse would be good, but you do have to be careful about who comes in, because it can't just be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You got to have more than hopes and dreams. But I agree with the sentiment 100%. I really do. Clear some house. We got Petra Olsen, who came in with 269 Swedish kroners. With love to Ukraine is the lovely message, and into the fund with much love it shall be. Thank you, Petra. And then Niles Knudsen comes in, gifting out Shills memberships. Jump Mario, you little bastard. Boom. Thanks, Niles. Love the gifted memberships. They're very helpful indeed. And I think I'm caught up. So why don't we let Dave run through some viewer questions for everybody and regroup and reshuffle into whatever comes next.
We've got plenty of questions on the Flamingo missiles, so I will get to them in just a second. There is a quick one for Dick. It wasn't me who was asking. Is there a chance that Starsky might join us tonight?
Yeah, no, I actually did a back and forth with it. Wasn't me in the live chat there, but there was a misunderstanding because the old trailer is Ukraine update with Operator Starsky, and I've never bothered to even consider doing anything about that. So I will coming up. ask Dunk to make something cool for the show.
That's right. Because I was going to ask you about that because I couldn't think of the word trailer. I was just thinking like the preview or something because it still has like the old setup from the day one.
Yeah, exactly.
Panel.
It's ancient, man. That's how old that is, you know? Yeah. I guess the only good thing about it now is what the music you listen to when you listen to that trailer is my music. So no copyright claims that way.
It doesn't stop YouTube from trying. There are several questions on the Flamingo missiles. Whitefishy and Romania were asking question from the panel. Thoughts on the new Flamingo missile? There's another one further down. It wasn't me. Lance Macmillan, what do you think of the Flamingos? I've only seen one hit supposed to have done. I'm going to start that again. What do you think of the Flamingos? I've only seen one hit supposed to have been done by them yet. There we go. And then the last one was RP Marston. Oh, go for it.
First thing I'd say about that is the Flamingo was introduced to operational use only very recently, like a month and a half ago, something like that. So there aren't that many of them. And Ukraine is being very selective about what they're using them against, the targeting. So I think what we've seen from the Flamingo thus far, it's a very capable missile that adds a lot of additional ability to the Ukrainians to strike at Russian targets. I suspect that as the production cycle on that missile ramps up and they start putting out more than, say, one a month, then you're going to see it having more of an effect.
Right, I'm not being funny, Dick. Could you put that picture up again? Because it looks like, you remember in Thunderbirds where Gordon had to go down in Thunderbird 4 and like cut off the engines and then it floats to the top and it saves them, right? It looks exactly like that. Was it designed by Jerry Anderson? Seriously.
I wonder.
So on the Flamingo missile, it had one successful hit. It hit a Russia Secret Service base in Crimea. So at this point, I think the Flamingo missile is going to bring the victory to Ukraine. It's going to change everything on the battlefield. But right now, the production is one Flamingo missile per day. And Zelensky said that they're going to have 7 of them per day by October. And that's a devastating number for Russia. If you have 7 of them per day, 30 days in a month, look how many targets in that target-rich environment, as Commander Macmillan has said, we can enjoy watching to burn.
Yeah, definitely. There was one other question there. RP Martin was saying that the Flamingo is one of the several weapons developed in Ukraine's arsenal yet to be unveiled, ? Is that correct, ? And you sort of answered that, really.
Yeah.
We had one successful strike.
That has been publicized.
That's what I was about to say. At this point, I'm 100% convinced that we are definitely not 100% informed, because I'm pretty sure that, with working out the kinks and wanting to keep abilities hidden, and there's a lot of strategic value to not having the information out until it needs to be, right, Commander?
Yep, exactly.
Makes total sense.
And also, if we do have all the information out, that means that Ukraine is so sure about everything. They're sure about their the plants that they're building it, the capabilities of manufacturing, the support of the West behind everything. By the way, did you guys notice that like a couple days before Flamingo missile was unveiled, Trump said that like a Sleepy Joe or like criminal Joe Biden department would not allow Ukraine to hit inside Russia. And that is how can you win if you're not hitting within Russia? And that's about to change, and you're going to see some new developments. Couple days later, Ukraine is unveiling Flamingo. So I think all of this has been discussed with the allies. They said, listen, we're going to have this beautiful, big, beautiful rocket. We're going to start hitting hitting Russia. I hope you have nothing bad to say about it. And I think allies all agreed, like, what can you say? Ukraine is going to start hitting Russia, you know?
I cheer them on. I hope that this turns out to be something that can really do some proper damage in the proper places across enemy lines.
I apologize.
Yeah.
So much winning. So much winning.
Yeah.
Tired of so much winning.
Yeah. Oh, hold on a second here. There, muted. He didn't mute before he got up, so we don't need to hear that conversation.
Who would want to be listening to us anyway?
Yeah. What's up?
There was.
Okay, you're good.
Can you
You're
make sure
good.
you mute me for like 2 minutes?
Yeah, I got it. No worries. No worries. He's not used to the fact that I'm always ahead of the game when it comes to this stuff. He'll figure it out.
I was going to say, there is one more question from our very own Carpathian, who does some of the AI artwork on the channel. What would a second stage of Russian sanctions specifically include, and how would they differ from current measures? That's probably a good one for Macmillan.
Yeah.
Could you repeat that? That was a little
quick.
Yeah.
All good. Is it muffled, by the way, Dick? Are we good?
It's a little clearer now.
Okay.
There's yeah.
I just don't want to do this.
Oh no, don't no, yeah, no, that's enough of that. Yeah. There's proximity effect and then there's that. So
I hate it. I hate it so much on so many videos, just instantly clicking off of the video. What would a second stage of Russian sanctions specifically include, and how would they differ from the current measures? That was a question from Carpathian.
Who knows? They're coming out of Trump's White House, and their view of economics, obviously, from just the tariff thing alone, lets you know how little they really understand economics. So, yeah, I don't know what the way it would appear once another set come out, but in my opinion, it's less a matter of adding new sanctions, because at this point, pretty much everything is sanctioned that's coming out of Russia. The real thing that would put a change in the system is the idea of enforcement, of enforcing those sanctions much more rigidly. Because at this point, we're kind of turning a blind eye to, oh yeah, that country has been buying Russian oil. So
yeah.
And if you change that and say, okay, we know you're buying Russian oil, we're going to sanction all your goods too. At that point, you'd start seeing people backing off and changing, because there's not that big a market for anybody's production within the BRICS circle, so to speak.
Right.
Those are not buyer nations, those are provider nations. What they want is buyer nations that they can sell that stuff to, so they can make money and skim off the top into personal bank accounts of the leadership and such.
Yeah.
So if you start enforcing the sanctions more robustly and making those people who violate the sanctions get hurt because of it, I think that would have a profound effect.
Agreed. Way more teeth then. Way more bite.
Yeah.
Let's see. Question wise, do we still have a few to do, Dave? Or I'm sure we do, right?
I definitely had one for Macmillan myself, actually. I'm not sure, it might have been touched upon earlier. You were talking about Portugal, though, right? There was also a joint statement from the foreign ministers of 5 Nordic countries and Canada. I don't know if everyone saw that.
I actually didn't, funny enough, because,
I could read out a statement, but you could probably guess half of it, right? Standing together, blah, 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 active role, blah, 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 coalition of the willing, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So, right, you get the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think those, we make fun of it kind of with the blah, blah, blah thing. But the reality is, this is countries standing up and saying, even absent U.S. leadership, we think this is important. We're going to go ahead and do things without the direction of the big brother.
Yeah.
And I think that's really an important development that we need to take note of. I think
wouldn't have seen it 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a huge change, because even assuming we can get Trump and the MAGA group out of power, it's going to take a lot of time for the U.S. to rebuild the trust and confidence that the world had in us after what he's done. 2
terms. It's not going to happen in one.
Oh, it'll take more than 2 terms.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I think it's a very good thing that we're seeing more, I'll call it the West, generic, and I don't mean just Western Europe, but the free democracies of the world, standing up and starting to say, look, we can still do what we know is morally and ethically right to start stopping this kind of aggression, even absent the U.S. giant umbrella.
Yeah. And that's huge.
Also,
yeah, it is. It's enormous.
And the big point as well is U.S. is not that big giant umbrella anymore. We are umbrella with holes in it. If you're holding U.S. umbrella, you're gonna get wet, and that's what.
That was awesome.
You're not going to get any argument from me.
That's what Russia and China and North Korea, I mean, they're kind of a puppet, but they're exploiting right now. They're uniting. They're showing we do have a leadership. We do have strength. We do have economy behind us. We are a viable alternative to the broken West.
Yeah. Trumbrella is one that just got dropped in the live chat there. Logo's fabulous. That's funny, man.
Umbrella.
It looks old and it doesn't work. Trumbrella. Available now.
You're holding onto a cankle, right?
Yeah.
But it's gold and it looks so nice, even if it leaks, Your
it's gold.
Envious.
Yeah, it'd have to be gold plated for sure.
Oh my God. Do we have any more questions? I also have a fun thing to mention, just a funny thing.
Oh, go for it then.
I've been down with COVID all this week, which is kind of sucks. But I'm always 200. I'm like 90% back. But I've been playing StarCraft. It's like one of my pet peeves. I love StarCraft game, and basically there's like this evil god Aemon who wants to destroy everything. And as a final battle, you have to fight Aemon, and Aemon sends you the messages into your brain to kind of discourage you from fighting. And I noticed that they're exactly the same as like the Russian propaganda. What Russian propaganda is saying to kind of discourage the West, to discourage the support of Ukraine, and I wrote them down. So this is Aemon saying, as you're like fighting, you're trying to win, and they're like, all shall be won, all conflict shall end. Right. So this is what Russia is saying, like Ukraine and Russia is a one nation, one. Why fight? Just give up. We're the same people. We're the same thing. Like I see like straight parallels. Like this is how game makers view pure evil, right?
Yeah,
They're trying to show pure evil, like with their psychology, with their writing expertise. And this is exactly what Russia verbatim is using as part of their propaganda. So another thing is like, struggle no more, be released from your pain. So basically, like, Ukraine is struggling, Ukraine is fighting, like, why not, like, be in peace? Like, you can have peace any day if you just stopped fighting. And then the last thing, which I really kind of enjoyed, it says, all life is broken, it must be newly forged. So this is another idea that Russia is putting into the brains of Westerners, and kind of successfully, to the point that all our Western things are broken. Maybe it's too old, it's not working anymore, we don't have leadership, we don't have unity anymore, the West is broken. That's what they keep repeating and repeating and repeating. And at least anywhere, like if you go to China, if you go to Africa, because I'm interviewing people on the street, anytime you meet somebody from Africa, they don't like United
They
States.
bless the
They
rains back
came here.
home. Sorry, bad joke.
Yeah, it's true. They do, but they, at the same time, they're already preconditioned to hate United States, to hate the West, to kind of think that Russia is right, even though when it's time to travel, they don't go to Russia. They have the self-preservation that we talked about before, but they kind of preconditioned. And the only thing we had to find to kind of fight against that before, we had USAID, where they could say, maybe United States is not so evil. They did like a hospital in our region. They did like a show in Ireland, like the theater performance, but now there's nothing like that. The Russian voice, which kind of is spreading anti-American, anti-Western propaganda, is standing unopposed. And by the way, Russia is doing the same thing.
It's not just USAID. I mean, we used to have Voice of America. And
it's part of USAID.
Yeah, and people would listen to it around the world because that was considered a very, very trustworthy source of news. We didn't try to color things or spin it our way. And that's been defunded. You'll never guess by who.
By the way, when USAID got defunded,
I can answer Commander McMillan's question with a quote from the sorry ass sack of shit himself on why he did it.
Because I have common sense.
When
He has coming sense. It's coming to him eventually.
Yeah.
When USAID was defunded and Voice of America was no more, I read an article, beautiful article. It was by a Russian like opposition person of sorts, and they were saying that basically when Soviet Union was like at the end, people would tune into Voice of America, tune into to those stations to listen to alternative opinion, because you were so programmed by USSR to think that the West is evil. And then you could find those articles or those newscasts of the time of Voice of America, because they had radio, right? And you could listen to that. And that
was another one.
And that was like a breath of fresh air, and that would give people the confidence that if the Soviet Union breaks up, they're going to be okay, that the West is not so evil, that there's alternative point of view, that you should not hate Americans, hate Europeans, like, and they had tears in their eyes when it was Russians, mind you, like good Russians, let's say, that they cried when they realized that Voice of America is now defunded, that thing that existed for over 30 years, that helped break down Soviet Union, that was a kind of a voice for democracy in the world, was destroyed by Elon Musk and Donald Trump overnight, basically.
Yeah, VOA was active from the early 60s. So
really?
It's been like 50, 60 years that it's been going.
Wow.
Or had been.
Well, there was an Iron Curtain in Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union made a point to make sure that as little people as possible could hear this. And when it was 90s, when Gorbachev came into power, and his arm was twisted and he had to open up a little bit to the West. The very prominent voice that people heard, and it was very different, very refreshing, was Voice of America. And a whole generation of people kind of saw the bright light, saw that things could be different, saw that the democracy is the actual power, the kindness is the actual power. It's not the tight grip, it's not the metal grip, it's not the tanks and rockets, it's voice and creativity and democracy and freedom and all those things that were kind of foreign to people at the time.
Yeah. No, growing up as I did overseas, and we saw a lot of this kind of the impact that things like Voice of America and USAID had. And it's, I think it's tragic that that's all gone now. And the only message that's out there really filling that void is the Russian message.
And China.
Yeah, and China.
Yeah. And they're very aggressive because they understand how important it is. They hate USAID. Of course, there's nothing to hate now. But they're aggressively stepping into those areas left vacated by USAID, and they're just unopposed in the messages that they're spewing out.
Yeah.
I was devastated when those Russian propagandists, they were standing just clapping. Oh my God, no more Voice of America.
Yeah.
Freaking lying sack of crap voice that we heard for so long. No more. Thank you, Elon Musk. Freaking the worst kind of Russians possible. Thank you, Elon Musk. We love everything that Trump is doing. And it was heartbreaking. Russians are applauding you. You've reversed the last 60 years of progress. You reversed. And in the case of this meeting in China, we lost 130 years of everything that United States was doing, of building us as a leader of the world. We lost it, essentially.
I can't remember which leader it was. I think some higher up in the Russian structure back during the Soviet era. And they said, we do not have to attack and destroy Western Europe and the US. You will do it for us. You will destroy yourselves internally. It's inevitable. And that's beginning to look very prophetic, unfortunately.
It's also beginning to look like they've got their hand in it.
Oh, really?
Shout out here from Johnny Nedregard there in the live chat. 22 Norwegian kroners as well. Hello, Shillers. And then Slavie, Ukraine. Hirom Slava. Good one, buddy. Good one. Thank you very much as well. And then Annette came in, Annette from our team there. And she put in a $5 direct donation into our Ko-fi, whatever it's called thing there. Let's help Car for Ukraine meet the goals in the new autumn fundraiser, our autumn harvest trucks campaign. I should at least know the name, right? But I don't. Sadly. Here's the link. I just dropped it in. I think I did. It doesn't see. Yeah, there it is. Okay. It just took YouTube a second. I don't know what's going on their way. There's the link. Good show, Annette, because we definitely do want to see if we can't get closer to putting a rocket truck into play. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yes. Cool. What do we got here for time? What is it? 1:33? Is that right? 32, 33. My webcam that's right in front of me here, the little lip is bigger than the bezel of my monitor. So it's literally covering the time that's in front of me. And in the corner there, if I look out the side of my glasses, it just doesn't quite work, It's annoying as hell. Companies, the little thin bezel thing, We get it. Okay. It's been done. It's over. It's now a pain in the ass. You know, move on. Actually innovate. Don't just go, oh, look, the bezels are thinner. Ooh. You know? Okay. Anyway.
I love a thin bezel. That's why I paid $1,000 more.
Yeah. Companies love hearing that. Okay. Anyway, don't get me started with tech companies and BS because we'll be here for another entire show.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. We've got a pub chat coming later if you want to check it out.
Yeah, and tonight's pub chat, it's on the main channel. It's going to be more like a trial run for a show coming up that's going to be a weekly news wrap up every Sunday, and it'll be a panel of people, kind of like we do around here, and everybody brings in a couple of stories, and we just go around the table one turn at a time talking about whatever that person brings up from the last week of life on this planet, right? So it'll be pretty good. It's a little stone's throw tonight. Some people only found out about it about 65, 70 minutes ago. We'll see if it all works out.
So, some of us just found out.
See,
On
I'm
air.
really bad for this shit, man. Now, you people out there that have like PM'd me and it took me a week to figure out I even had a PM to answer and stuff. It's not personal. I'm really bad at this stuff. I'm a little autistic at times, right? And I screw up communications really badly. Anyway, enough of that. Let's move forward. We got about 15 minutes, though, is what I was trying to get to. Yeah.
I can throw out a few more questions if you want as well.
Yeah.
Thing has a question. Now Mordor has attacked the Ukraine parliament. Is now also the Kremlin back in play to get hit? Tit for tat.
Yeah, but that's a dangerous road to go down because right now Ukraine enjoys a reputation as being decent people who are fighting a war. So they're aiming at military targets, not civilian targets, not national,
Right.
artworks or whatever. The Russians, on the other hand, we all know it's like, oh, let's hit that supermarket. Let's hurt that or blow up that apartment building. They're not really aiming at military targets per se. And so that's one of the things that makes them look bad and dirty in the world image. Conversely, the Ukrainians look like decent people who are trying to defend themselves.
Yeah, they get the moral high ground for sure, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you forfeit that moral high ground the moment you start striking non-military targets.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of feel good about, we blow up your damn Kremlin, assholes. But
if they hit the Kremlin with one, I would jump for joy so hard when I landed, I'd probably have a fucking baby. You know?
But that's an interesting image. but at the same time, it doesn't do anything substantive, whereas striking command centers, supply depots, oil production facilities, all those actually do something towards bringing the end of the war closer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, very much.
There is a follow-up to that from CZ that just came in. Is the attack on the Ukraine parliament a war crime? If so, what are the consequences supposed to be?
Putin should be thrown out of a window.
Oh, you have the falling sickness. How unfortunate. Have a cigarette on the way down.
Yeah.
So the consequences of a war crime is a punishment by all these international crimes. They are only as punishable as our ability to enforce them. As
or
an
willingness
international
to
community. Ability and willingness. And Russia has been feeling pretty comfortably throughout the years. They little by little, like at first they were not as comfortable. They were kind of shy. They would call the invasion of Crimea like it was people over there on the ground doing their thing. We're not doing that. Then they said, okay, we did it. And then, we're not actually attacking Ukraine in the West. It's like Ukrainian forces inside Ukraine attacking itself. And eventually they're like, okay, we did it. And okay, we want to annex that territory as well. And then eventually they were emboldened enough where they attacked like a full-scale invasion. But again, they didn't call it a full-scale invasion because once again, they're afraid of being punished for those
military operation.
Special military, exactly. That's what they're still calling it, and the reason is it still lets them get away with not getting as harsher sanctions as they could get. The sympathizing nations can still use the talking point that Russia is actually not fighting a war somehow. Maybe it's just it is a military operation, special military operation. So, however, when it gets down to it, are we able and willing to enforce these crimes, to enforce these laws? If we are, we will do it. If we're not, then Russia has a showcase. Look, West is broken. That's another nail in the coffin of West. Everything that we were building, everything that we were standing by, the NATO, our Western way of world, our democracy, our freedom is not worth much because when it gets down to it, we're unable to protect Ukraine. We're unable to protect peace at the doorsteps of Europe. Europe is like the big economy, the greatest whatever. It's not, as Russia is trying to point out. So unfortunately, like a war crime can be good for Russia if they can show that, listen, we can do a war crime and nobody can do anything to us.
Yeah.
And it could be bad if we're able to enforce it. So it's up to our resolve to show, can you do a war crime in a modern world? Or you cannot do a war crime in a modern world.
Mhm.
And Russia has been getting bolder and bolder and bolder. And for the first time in history of all these wars, after President Putin visited Alaska, they actually hit a hospital in Ukraine, and they said, we hit a hospital, and that never happened before. So they are completely assured that they can get away. We're not going to do much. We are disorganized according to them. They are organized because they just had this nice meeting in China.
Hey, they can herd donkeys like motherfuckers. So, that's organization, right? Keeping the donkeys in line.
I mean, China is doing high-speed trains. They have their own aircraft carriers. They have planes. They have all kinds of production that they're doing. They're fully sustaining all the drone production in Russia at this point, which is, it takes all of the Western allies to kind of counter and keep it on par. So, it's not just donkeys. And then, and Russia is using donkeys. They don't mind,
Yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out, we make fun of Russia for calling it the special military operation, but to some degree, they learned that trick from us.
Yeah.
The Vietnam conflict was a police action.
Yeah.
Countries do that. They engage in that kind of spinning the message.
Yeah.
So to me, that's not a huge deal. It's comical more than it is serious.
Yeah.
We have to be careful about accusing Russia of things that honestly we in the West have done. And I don't mean just the US. I mean,
no.
Yeah, let's talk about, for example, Britain with the Falkland Islands. Yeah, that could have probably been sorted out through some other means than a war, but it worked politically for Thatcher to say, yep, we're going to counter-invade and free your islands from domination.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was the wrong choice. I'm just saying that
It worked.
The motivation behind a lot of these things has to do with domestic politics far less than people think. It has to do with global power politics.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And
I
everyone
also think,
oh, we you know, like Commander was just saying there, I mean, we're usually right there with them, so you know.
I also think that these, war crimes or things that, West is doing wrong or Russia is doing wrong, that's a good indicator of the differences between the West and the Russia. Because, for example, we in the Western world, in the democratic world, in the free world, we're able to go back and say, listen, what we did there was incorrect. For example, it's like a mafia and the police department, right? There could be a corruption in the police department. There could be like good deeds in the mafia. But when it gets down to it, Russia is a mafia, and they're using those talking points. They're saying, listen, we're not any worse than the West. They keep tabs of everything the West has ever done wrong in history.
Yeah.
They keep repeating. They have it on fast pull up. They have it on tabs. They have listen. United States attacked Afghanistan, attacked Iraq, attacked everything that United States ever done wrong. And by the way, United States would admit, yeah, that was wrong. Maybe we could have done anything different. Who never admits they've done anything wrong? Russia, China, North Korea. And that is the fundamental difference. Because
and I would say another thing that highlights that is that even when those events are ongoing, we have people in our country and the West in general, countries, people who will stand up and say, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. They call the government to account. It may not do much, but at least it's being said so people understand that viewpoint. You never see that in an authoritarian regime.
No.
You have to toe the authoritarian regime's government's line 100%. You deviate even the smallest bit and you're disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, that they double down.
Yeah.
They don't back up, right?
Exactly.
And when you try to question them, they say, oh, United States is doing this as well.
Yeah.
United States did Iraq.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's kind of funny.
Well, okay, can't be long because we're at Raps time. So don't make it a long one.
The latest thing that Russia added to its roster of horrible things that United States has done is this horrific Ukrainian minerals deal signed with Donald Trump, where Russia is now saying, among other things, United States, when you're down, they will make you sign the minerals deal. They will make you sign minerals away. So they added that to the roster of horrible crimes that the United States has done in its history.
As opposed to using tanks to try to take those minerals. It's a little different, but
it's all the same
in
Russia's eyes. Was that short enough for you, Mr. D?
Perfect. So we'll just scoot around the table quick and get some thoughts and wrap ups, and then we'll put this one in the bag and we'll flip the script. And in a couple hours, right here on the main channel at the Shills, we've got our new weekly news wrap-up show. Now, we don't actually know what we're doing yet. It's just an idea that came together, and we're going to see, what comes out of the bag. But we got a few folks enticed, and there's going to be a bit of a pub chat feel to it where we're just going to chatter about the topics, but it will go from topic to topic to topic instead of just random chaos. So that's probably a decent compromise, so you still get some shits and giggles, but it's informative and conversive, and it should be good. So it's 7 p.m. Eastern. There's a redirect when we're done here. Click it, and then you can click the little notify me button and all that good stuff too. Dave Worley, what do you think, buddy? Thoughts and wrap-ups?
It's good to be back. We've always got to remember, because I will forget to thank the moderators, to thank everyone in the background, people who do the thumbnails. All this is an operation, okay? It's not a very good one, okay, because we're in charge. But one day we're going to know what we're doing.
Yes. We strive to get there. Johnny, Young Ukrainians on YouTube. That's at Young Ukrainians. Get over and sub. We got to get his numbers up, help him get monetized as quick as we can here. What do you think, buddy?
I have no thoughts, as you know. I love you guys. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to enjoy your wisdom and share some of mine. Thank you guys, and looking forward to what's happening.
Awesome. Commander, what do you think?
I think it was a pretty good show. We covered a lot of interesting topics, and as I do usually when we're wrapping up, I'll remind everybody, please communicate with your elected officials. Phone them, text them, send emails, write letters, whatever. They have an impact, even if it's a guy who's not necessarily receptive to your ideas. Those messages matter. So please make sure you send the update to them every week about, I want to help Ukraine. And
yes.
That does eventually change policy.
Yes. Words of wisdom indeed. Huge thanks here to our team. We got Annette on the Shills account today, Shayna Caldwell, AI Alchemist, who gives us all these goodies and more around here, Chris Lundy, Liam Wakefield, Jose C., and Super Chat Matt as well. So final reminder, stick around to the end so you get the redirect. It's on this channel. It's the new weekly news show. Be there or be square. Slavie Ukraine.
Героям слава.
Well said.
It's over. Go home. Go.